gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's January the 6th, 2023. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined once again by our previously absent without leave, Matt Shodell.
Wow.
I should say managing editor, Matt Shodell, and Izubee Charles, who has returned from his sick bed thanks to his Life Wallet and is back with us on this morning show, which is presented by Life Wallet, where the time is now to take charge with your personal health as well as the Izubee's. So anyway, it's been a crazy week or so, CaneSport. We've had Steven out in San Antonio. Matt just disappears on us. My voice just coincidentally happens to go crazy bad while Matt's goofing around somewhere. And then Izubee's been really sick. So we've been scrambling, but somehow we are still making it happen. There is still a website. There still is news of the day. And guys, several things for us to talk about. I think we should start with the weekend. And it's been a little quiet, obviously, on the recruiting front because of the holidays and the new year and all that. But it is picking up this weekend with several transfers that are going to be appearing on the Miami campus, a few of which are huge priorities. And I'm going to start with UCF center Matt Lee. Now, this is a kid who is a 2-year starter. He has 2 years of eligibility remaining. And from what I can gather, Miami is all in on trying to land this guy. They really feel like they got to get somebody who can come in and at worst take some of the load off of Jacolby Clark. And if not, beat him out altogether. And Matt Lee fits the bill perfectly. He's got starting experience in college football. His pro football focus grades are really, really good. He grades out 90.6 as a pass blocker, has a pretty strong 80.6 run blocking grade. And guys, I've heard that this guy can almost essentially write his ticket to Miami. Now, the problem is he went to Oklahoma also this week, and UCF is not giving up on keeping him. Izubee, I'll start with you. We sat there and watched the O-line play this year. It was pretty ugly at times. Let's be honest. They do need to get better. They need to get tougher. Before this Matt Lee thing came up, I wasn't necessarily thinking, man, they got to find a replacement in the transfer portal for Jacolby Clark. But once it did come up and you start thinking about it, getting Matt Lee really makes a lot of sense for the Hurricanes.
Yeah, with Matt, he was a guy at UCF that I actually became friends with because one of my good friends played alongside him at UCF. Cole Schneider was a 3-year starter. But, Matt
knew that. That's why I asked you first.
Matt was a day one guy that came into UCF, and the first time I met him, I couldn't tell he was a freshman, just how he carried himself off the field, and then his play on the field was amazing. And like you said, it doesn't hurt to bring in some competition. I know Mario Cristobal loves the saying, iron sharpens iron, and Matt's a good iron. He's been at a good UCF program for, I think, 3 years now. He's been a starter all 3 years. He's been, all-conference guy, freshman all-conference, first team all-conference the second year, a really good, solid center. And he did take that visit to Oklahoma. I feel like Oklahoma might have, something there because Dylan Gabriel, his former quarterback at UCF, is also at Oklahoma. But I feel like if Miami gets him down here, he gets to stay in Florida. He's a Florida guy. That'd be huge. And him and Jacolby Clark can battle out for that center position would be really cool.
Matt, you studied these pro football focus grades all year. You get a guy that's grading at 90 that can come into your program. I mean, that's pretty good.
Well, these grades are sort of deceptive, right? It's like watching a high school highlight tape. If Samson Okunlola is playing, he's going to look good against anybody. Bad example. But anybody, I could look good on a highlight tape, okay? My nephew created a highlight tape just of his dunks, and he looks like an NBA player. And trust me, I beat him one-on-one. He was 10 years old at the time, but I still beat him. So, if you do want to look inside Pro Football Focus, right, they didn't play a real good schedule. 70 is considered a good grade. So you look at some of the better teams they played. Against Cincinnati, his grade was a 56.6. Georgia Tech 69.2, even FAU 64.2. Again, some of the defenses that struggled. Tulane had a great season. Their defense wasn't particularly good. I don't think up the middle, at least from what I saw in the bowl game. He graded out really, really high in one of those. They played him twice in one of those games. Graded out really high at USF. 58.5 against Navy. It was sort of hit or miss, quite honestly. A stronger pass blocker than run blocker, which isn't what Mario wants. If you look at his run blocking grades, out of all their games this year, I believe there were 3 or 4 where he was at 70 or above. He had 2 under, or 3, 1, 2, 3, 4 at about 60 or lower. So this isn't like a mauler. This is a guy who was lightly recruited, playing against teams that aren't real good. It's just hard. For me, it's hard to get a gauge. I know Alonzo Highsmith, people way smarter than I am, Alex Mirabal and Mario Cristobal, they make the decisions, right? I'm just some talking head on a stupid morning show that you morons out there are watching. Like, this is what I see, because I'm not going to look at every one of his game tapes like I should, because Gary has me doing some stupid ass projects for next week. I don't have any time to watch this kid's game tapes. So I'm just telling you guys what I see. He played a bad competition. He didn't do real well against the good teams. And he's a not that great of a run blocker because, he's apparently Ja'Kai Clark number 2. And great, they can compete with each other to start. That's awesome.
Way better grades than Ja'Kai Clark. And
Ja'Kai Clark played a much better schedule. That's what I'm trying to tell you. If you look at the Central Connecticut State game, it looks like Miami, every one of them graded out at 90%. That's what I'm trying to tell you. If you put this kid against Miami's schedule, I don't know what he does. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying he's not going to be great. Everyone wants to say this kid from, who's that defensive tackle, Thomas Gore, who graded out at 90%, at Georgia State or something. I mean, is he going to grade it at 90% against really top competition in the ACC? I personally don't think so, but I'm sure everyone out there disagrees with me because I'm negative Nancy, negative Nelly, whatever, man. Like, that's just how I feel.
Some guy on the YouTube comments yesterday wanted us to give you your own negative Nancy show.
Yeah, nobody would watch that. I thought we were coming on here to talk about Deion Sanders. I was very excited. I don't want to talk about Matt Lee and a bunch of transfers. Let me tell you something. Deion Sanders and Mark Pope, who recruited Mark Richt, if Manny Diaz, we saw Mark Pope in practice. He walked through every darn drill. We didn't ever wanted to call him out because it's not right when he's on the team. But now everybody saw it, okay? And I know Deion said he was talking trash, whatever, and Deion overheard him. This is a guy with bad practice habits. If they had done what Deion did, and I know everyone, it's like, why would Deion do that? It's so mean.
You're assuming everybody's seen it, so why don't you just tell us what he did?
He took he went into the meeting room. This is in Deion's Amazon Prime show. So he went to the team meeting room and he said, there's a player on this team who I walked up on and overheard something I didn't like. We're a family, something. I'm paraphrasing, but we don't want bad blood in the family or a disease that'll spread through the family. So we're gonna take a vote of who wants him out. And then the kids who wanted him out stood up. The kids who wanted him to stay stood up. And Deion said, "You're out." And nobody knew who he was talking about until Mark Pope got up and left the room. And of course, he rejoined the team. He had 1 catch for 15 yards on the year. So he had a fantastic season. But no, my point is this.
Time out for 1 second. Izubee, you have been in a locker room a lot more recently than Matt, and certainly myself. Okay, imagine yourself on a team, and that happens where the coach has the team vote on whether you get to stay on the team or not. What do you think about that?
When I saw that, I didn't know if I was watching a football meeting or episode of Survivor. It was just kind of odd to have that type of decision come down to the guys on the team say, because maybe some guy has a vendetta. Maybe there's a wide receiver behind him on the depth chart. He's got to get out of here. This is going to be my shot. So I don't think that was handled the best way possible, but I'm also not a head coach of a college program. So maybe he knows a little bit more than me.
Listen, it's a dictatorship in college. There's no democracy where you vote as a team. Izubee's exactly right. But my point is this. as much as I disagree with how it was handled, I think if Mark Richt or Manny Diaz had done that, and it was not aired on a documentary, but just did that, I think Mark Pope would have been better for it. No one ever taught him a lesson like that until it was too late. He never had that push where, oh my gosh, this is real, and he was just, I feel like he was coddled too much. They let him walk through practices at Miami, never said a word to him. And we would watch it and couldn't believe it, Gary. They just let him walk around.
Man.
Let him walk around. So, it's a shame. I admire, as much as people hate Deion, I admire what he did to Mark Pope. I don't admire that he did it on national TV, but I admire what he did if he did it privately, because you know what? Some student athletes need a wake-up call to reach their potential, and Mark got it too late in his career. He got it too late. It's too late now for him. But if that had happened to him as a freshman or a sophomore, he would have time to recover and realize a really important lesson in his life, which is it's not all about me. It's about the team and the coaches. And if I don't do what they say, I am not going to get very far in this world.
All right, well, getting back to the transfers, because I do think it's important, and I do like the fact that they're going after Matt Lee. I know you and I
Of course you do. What transfer don't you like, Gary? You like every
I know you and I have argued about this a lot in the past.
You literally told me the other day that you're fine with them taking guys that are depth fillers and aren't ever going to start.
I think you have to. You have to, or you can't stay at 85.
I can't even.
or else you're not going to make the 85 limit. Like, it's just not reality. And you need guys like this. Matt Lee would be a good pickup for Miami. And I would say he's the most important guy visiting this weekend. If there wasn't a guy from Kentucky by the name of Justin Rogers,
that's the most important guy.
6'3", 332-pound defensive tackle, 2 years of eligibility left, and would be just a great replacement for Darrell Jackson. They need defensive tackles. Matt, they are competing with LSU, Alabama, and Auburn for this kid, plus LSU, where he's visiting right before he comes to Miami. You look at that list, and you're thinking, oh, man, how the heck is Miami going to win this one? I hear Miami is right in the thick of this thing and has a very good chance to land Justin Rogers. Tell me you like this one.
This is a viable replacement for Darrell Jackson. I would be very happy getting him, period. I mean, like, what else do you want me to say? I'd be happy getting him. He's played at a major program that played a real schedule that was in the SEC. He did pretty well, and other major teams want him. Like, what do you want from me? Of course you want this guy. I don't have to go on and on about it for 10 minutes like you guys, talking about this and that and how now they're going to win the national championship.
He hasn't gotten to say a word yet about Justin Rogers. I'm going to him now because I'm hoping to get some youthful enthusiasm here. Izubee, you got a 330-pound defensive tackle. Miami's hurting at defensive tackle right now. Very thin. They need some help. I love this guy. I know the competition is steep. I think Miami's going to be all in to get him. Your thoughts on the pursuit of Justin Rogers as a replacement for Darrell Jackson?
I think it's great. Honestly, you're getting a guy from a Power 5 program. He's putting some new tires, replacing some old tires with some new Michelin ones. And Justin Rogers is the Michelin tires coming in on Mario Cristobal's Ferrari. I mean, he's got big programs chasing him, so there must be something good about him. He's kind of productive in Kentucky. Let's see what he can do in some orange greens if Mario can get him down here.
You paying attention, Matt? That's how you answer a question.
I don't answer this as eloquently as Izubee. I'm sorry.
Oh, my God. All right, there's a couple other guys visiting this weekend who, obviously are important as well. There's a defensive tackle from Arkansas State. We said Miami's after defensive tackles. Here's another one, Isaiah Nichols. He's more, I think, of a depth filler, quite honestly. I don't think he's a starting level player, but I think he's the guy that could come in and help, kind of like an Antonio Moultrie last year. And then there's a cornerback from Iowa by the name of Terry Roberts. And I think this is another good one to be pursuing. I think Miami needs help at corner. I don't think they have enough there. He's a sixth-year senior. Doesn't have outrageous stats, 13 tackles last year, 14 tackles, 2021, a couple interceptions. Not a program changer for sure. Another one of those like depth filler type of transfers that Matt hates.
These two guys I'm fine with because they have 1 year of eligibility. The ones I don't like are the ones with 2+ years of eligibility. I don't need that. I'd rather have a recruit. That's all. 1 year and gone. If you're playing at 80 anyway, which they probably would be without transfers, like I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, but they've got a serviceable place in college football, the way that things are right now, and so yeah, I'm happy about these guys. I think that Miami is working the portal in the right way. They're not like going out of control or anything, but I think they're targeting specific guys, and in that regard, it's going relatively well.
You know what's amazing? This is what I don't understand.
Yeah.
Let's say Izubee, you go in the portal, right? What's going to be the first thing you're looking for as a 6th-year senior or a 5th-year senior? Money? Oh, okay, not me. I'm looking for somewhere I can start and go to the NFL. I assume that's why they're transferring. I assume they want to make it to the pros, and they're trying to find a spot where they have a better chance to start and prove themselves. Izubee will take the money. I'll take the start, I guess, in my final year. Both will be good.
Depends on the guy.
Both will be good. But my point is, these two guys, Miami has to convince them they're going to come in and start, or at least have a good chance to start. How do you convince both?
But that's not true, Matt. Not every transfer is like that. Okay.
Well, that's why I asked Izubee and not you. And Izubee,
but that's the conversation you and I had the other day. It's like every transfer is not like that. Some guys
want to come in and be backups. Okay, Gary.
Well, do you think Antonio Moultrie, for example, last year
when he transferred in, he thought he was going to start. Then they added 4 more defensive tackles afterwards. He almost left.
But he was a great locker room guy the whole year. There weren't any issues. And you need guys like that. Like, you need to be able to practice against
I'm not talking about that. You're talking about 2 different things. I'm talking about how do you convince them they can come in and start, or at least prove themselves for the pros and not just sit on the bench like Jacob Lichtenstein and Antonio Moultrie did.
I think you promised them an opportunity. And you notice Jacob Lichtenstein is going to be back this year, and he's going to have a chance to be in the rotation again. These guys are more valuable than you give them credit.
He's a coach this year, Gary. I'm pretty sure he's a player coach.
He's old enough to be. But these guys have more value than you give them credit for. I'm just saying. I mean,
what are
you're going to come around. You're going to come around to see this. I feel pretty certain of it. Like, this is just year 2.
I literally told you the guys that I wouldn't take are guys like John Dennis and Logan Sagapolu, who are here for 3 years, and I thought they could have done better.
Those are depth fillers.
The guys, I had no problem with Antonio Moultrie, 1 year and gone. Jake Lichtenstein, I don't need him here for 2 years, but whatever. Like, if he's gone, he's gone. I just don't want these guys that are transfers who aren't free agents taking up spots that we can use for freshman signees. And that's fine because 2024 signees. Correct. If you let me finish, that's what I'm trying to tell you.
We're not taking up spots, and here's why.
Correct.
It is a struggle to get to the 85 scholarship limit in today's college football.
If you let me talk, that's why you got to take guys that are senior.
You don't need me to let you talk. You talk plenty.
That's why you take guys that are senior transfers, because they're not affecting the 2024 numbers. But for every guy you take that's not a 1-year eligibility guy, you're taking away a 2024 potential spot that we don't know if they're going to get to that number, because there's unlimited scholarships for 1 more cycle, and that's the 2024 cycle. And I don't need transfers that are Gary Ferman's backups and locker room guys that are here for 2 and 3 years. If they're here for 1 year, I'm okay with it. Otherwise, it's got to be a free agent, or don't take them. We are trying to win a national championship in 2 to 4 years. Not this year, bro.
I don't think they're taking guys with all those years of eligibility thinking that they're going to necessarily be deep backups for 3-4 years.
I love when you backtrack. I love it.
I'm not backtracking.
You just did.
I think in Logan Sagapolu and John Dennis, you have 2 young offensive linemen that Alex Mirabal and Mario recruited to Oregon that wanted to come to Miami, and they gave them the opportunity. They were already on their roster at Oregon. So they,
I told you at the time, I said, I don't want the backups who couldn't play at Oregon coming to Miami. And then they took a bunch of them.
You did. And you could certainly make the argument, except for one thing. You do need to be 3 deep on the O-line. For practice purposes.
You'll never convince me we got to take bad players instead of great players. So I can't have the conversation. Let Izubee talk. I can't do this.
Izubee, is it realistic to think that an 85-man football team, everybody's going to be a great player?
I don't think that's realistic. I mean, from top to bottom, your roster is going to be obviously good enough to play Division I, but I don't think every guy is going to be the next man up mentality is really not.
Tell Nick Saban that, Izubee. Go tell Nick Saban that.
Great answer.
He's wrong. He's
not wrong.
Listen, if I was paying Izubee's paycheck, he would tell me I was right. Nick Saban will never take a guy who's not a championship level recruit. Like, he's not taking guys that are going to be third teamers just to take a good locker room guy like
Miami's
Gary
not
Ferman
there
does.
yet, though, Matt.
That's
They're
a
not
quick.
there.
That's a quick route to what Miami's had for 20 years. Okay, you don't take average to below average guys just because you need a guy, because you need a locker room guy. You take great players who are going to wind up being backups, and then so be it, because the guy ahead of them is even better. Like, I don't understand your whole failure philosophy of both of you.
They're not there yet.
Like my son comes home from college, and I say, "How did you do on your tests or your finals or whatever? What were your final grades?" And he says to me, "I got 3 ABs and an A." I'm like, "What's an AB?" Like, I never had an AB. Like, this is the new system. So, for you, Gary, and you, Izubee, you can take the AB guys. Apparently, that's somewhere between an 80 and 100 grade, which makes no sense to me. Apparently, you're fine with the 80s because they're like A's to you. I just want A's, man. A's and A pluses. It's why I kicked my son out of the house. Didn't give him any stone crabs that night. Like, I'm done with that, bro. I'm taking the A's. No B's. No ABs. I don't even know what that means. That's a new grading system.
I feel like we'd all love to take the A's, but I feel like all the A's don't want to, come take their test in Miami right now because the state of the program. So I feel like the Alabama one, I feel like we got to build up there. We're not quite, as there's Alabama to take all those A's, but I feel like for now we don't have to settle, but we're what we have, honestly.
I'm very tempted.
My man, Izubee, man. He's like nailing it big time.
I'm very tempted to just take both you off the screen, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it.
Izubee's nailing it big time this morning.
My New Year's resolution is to let Izubee talk and have fans love him so I don't have to do the show anymore. I think fans would really enjoy Izubee way more than this.
I think they love you. You're hard to get rid of.
Now, what they really want, they want me to
the only reason
the
only reason any of them like me is it's human nature to see somebody who's miserable because it makes you feel better about yourself and your life. Because look at that guy. At least I don't feel like that guy. And it makes me feel better, So, like, that's the only reason people want to see me in the morning, and I'm sick of it. I don't want to be that guy.
All right, well, keeping it on topic here, the news of the day. We also have a story on the website, the continuation of our 30 for 30 series, at least our current incarnation of it, where we are taking a look at the top 30 players on the team who have 30 or more reps of experience. And today we're at number 28, and we're talking about Jacolby George. And Matt, this is a guy that is running out of time, in my opinion. I mean, you see the skills. I mean, what shows me that Jacolby George can play is when they put him back on punt returns and how effortlessly he fields the football. Like, he's got great hands. He's very reliable back there. You could see that this is a kid that can be a contributor to this football team. But for the first few years of his career at Miami, he just keeps derailing himself and, gets suspended here, screws something up there. I think this is the year he's got to put it all together. Izubee, you start. You had the chance to watch Jacolby George, obviously, this year. What were your impressions of him?
Yeah, so my first impression of Jacolby George is he's really, really good in space. And when I realized that was versus Texas A&M late in the game, he catches that quick screen, makes a couple guys miss, almost takes to the house, gets tripped up over somebody. But I love his game honesty. And like you said, like the biggest thing holding Jacolby George back is Jacolby George. He comes into the season with the suspension, then he gets hurt. I feel like just little things like that keep piling on. But I feel like if he has a clean spring, a clean fall, I feel like he can really make an impact with the Hurricanes next year. Because he has all the talent to do so. Just has to put everything together.
But they're bringing in talent. They're bringing in Ray. They're bringing in Robbie Washington. And that's why I'm saying that I don't think he's got forever. I think they might sign a transfer portal guy at receiver. Like, the time is now to steal John Ruiz's big line. Time is now for Jacolby George. I mean, I think it's now or never, Matt. This is a kid that's got to rise to the occasion here pretty quickly.
So when I think about Jacolby George, I think about the reason I wasn't on the show yesterday is I went to dinner, got the kids in town. We went for a farewell dinner for one of my children who's going back to college and actually today.
And you stayed out too damn late. No,
yeah.
I showed the footage. You were stone crab fishing.
No, we did go. We had to put some new pots out in the water because we lost our other ones. We'll see how they fish, but we didn't do real well. We didn't do real well last time. Anyway, so we went to Contessa, which is in the design district. And this is related to Jacolby George, believe it or not, because I got some intel from a source close to the situation that told me, get the pizza. They said, get the pizza, get the pasta, do not get the entrees at Contessa, okay, which is this like fancy schmancy place. So we get to Contessa, sit down, we're all excited, and the waiter comes over and says, just so you know, the pizza oven is broken. We are not serving pizza tonight. And that's what I feel like with Jacolby George. I feel like he's missing the pizza. Like, he's got a couple of appetizers going for him, but like the main deal just isn't there. You know, he like just hasn't quite grasped what he needs. And I'm not sure he can. And the truth is, I disbelieve in him so much. Is that even a word? Probably not, but I'm going to use it. I disbelieve in him so much that when I sent Gary the original list, because God forbid Gary Ferman comes up with his own 30 people list, makes Matt Shodell do all the work, I had Mike Redding at number 28 and not Jacolby George.
And what did I say?
And Gary Ferman said, you're fired. And then he said, I'll only hire you back if you put Jacolby George there and knock Mike Redding off the list.
That's correct.
So now Mike Redding's off the list, and you want me to talk about Jacolby George and how great he is? I'm not going to do it.
Izubee, if you were in my position and you were working this list with Matt, and he gives you Mike Redding at 28 and leaves off Jacolby George.
At least Mike Redding can run block.
Don't you tell him to put Jacolby George in there and Mike Redding out?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with George again. Matt, don't say it's because he cuts the checks or anything like that. I actually like Jacolby George over Michael Redding. I feel like if we're talking science and books, I'll take Michael Redding any day. He's a real smart guy. If it's on the field, I'll take Jacolby George.
Wrong.
Anyway, we take a close look at Jacolby George today. So check that out on the website as well. All right, we got a few more things to talk about this morning. But first, let's hear from our friends at LifeWallet.
We here at LifeWallet take security very seriously. Our data security team is working constantly to make sure that your data is not accessed by anybody who you don't authorize.
Hey, what's up, man?
Yeah, I'm
Excuse me, sir. Thank you.
I have a problem with CC, and he's thinking about it, and I'll be talking to CC. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
We use leading technology standards like biometric data to make sure that only you have access to your data and your identity is protected. LifeWallet gives you access to your entire medical history and information at the touch of your finger, so that it can save you time and can save your life.
Data transfer complete.
All right. My voice is fading, so I'm going to move this thing right along here because I guess I didn't use my LifeWallet enough here in the last 24 hours, but it's not quite back yet. All right. So anyway, another story that is really interesting that's on the website today is we take a look at the top 5 immediate impact signees. And, guys, when there's a recruiting class, there's very many ways that you could slice and dice it up. You want to analyze it from every angle. To me, this is one of the more important angles. Who is coming in right away and impacting the program right away? And, it was another one that, Matt and I kicked around a little bit. And we came up with number 1, Mark Fletcher. And Matt, I'll let you comment for the most part on this one. But I think when you look at the recruiting class and you look where Miami needs help, running back is right there at the top of the list. Mark Fletcher coming in as a bigger back, should be physically ready for college football. I don't think he'll start. I think Henry Parrish will start, but I see Mark Fletcher stepping in very quickly. We'll see what happens with Don Chaney, but I see Mark Fletcher stepping in very quickly and being an important part of the offense in year 1. Your thoughts?
I mean, Trevante Citizen we should mention as well, but we'll see how he is off injury.
We got to see how that was a big
I don't think he'll be 100%. And he'll be cleared, but it takes a couple of years. I always harken it back to a Saquon Barkley type injury, but and Saquon played the next year, but he wasn't as good. And then this year, obviously, really, really good. But, I would disagree with you that running backs right at the top of the list for their needs. They have needs at every position. The only position last year that was at championship level was, I think the water boy did a really good job because they seem pretty hydrated. So this is a team that needs to reshape itself. Offensive line was totally off last year. The running backs obviously struggled. Now, was that on the offensive line? Was it on the play selection? How they did their run game? I'm not sure that, honestly, that it was Parrish's fault. I think Fletcher has more skills than Parrish as a runner. I think Fletcher will start if he can figure out the pass protection. And based on talking to his high school coach, who was the running backs coach, Mike Smith, at American Heritage before becoming the head coach, Mark Fletcher will excel at that. He's big, physical, and if he understands how to block a guy and where to be, then he will start. He's a better physical talent than Henry Parrish. Gary would rather start a guy who's not as good just because he's played before and did okay. That's not me. So anyway, the receivers need to be totally reshaped. Tight ends need to be totally reshaped. Maybe Elijah Roy will be great. Maybe he won't. That's every position on offense, Gary. Okay.
But Riley Williams is not walking into the program and starting.
Except for quarterback. Quarterback, I feel pretty good about Tyler Van Dyke.
You just get done saying you think Mark Fletcher is walking into the program and starting. So how is there a more impactful signing?
Skill position guys, a Mark Fletcher, a Ray, those skill position guys, it's a lot easier to give them smaller packages where you put the ball in Mark Fletcher's hands and let him run. Like, it's not rocket science. Look at the hole, find the hole, and run. If he can pass protect, great. That's what you need to have. If not, if the pass protection comes along, I'll rather he's running the ball than Henry Parrish. I'm sorry. You got to get Ray the ball in space. Give him a few routes if he doesn't understand everything, and put him to work. Like Colby Young barely had any route trees that he knew how to run, but he still had some great games last year.
Here's the thing, okay? And I love Ray. I think Ray is going to be the best receiver on the team the minute he walks on campus. But you still have other guys. You still have Restrepo. You still got Broussard Smith that can play out of the slot.
To me, you have guys
who running back. I think Mark Fletcher is a more impactful signee, which is why we made him number one. That's all I was saying. We can argue if he's going to start, not start. Better than Henry Parrish, not better than Henry Parrish.
Listen, at the end of the day, you can go on and on for 20 minutes. At the end of the day, my personal feeling is if I've already seen what you can do, and if you haven't made some sort of tremendous jump up from what I saw last year to spring ball to fall ball, I'm going with somebody else because I want to win a championship in 2 to 4 years. I need to know what else I have on that roster. Just like last year when I said I want to see Jake Garcia play, I want to see Jakari play, because I want to know what we have behind Tyler so we can win a national championship. When
that was worth seeing.
Yes, because now they know they desperately need help at quarterback. Otherwise,
I love Jake Garcia. I don't want to make it. I'm just joking around. I mean, it was great to see Jake Garcia play. He just wasn't ready to play, unfortunately.
Correct.
Izubee,
you need
help
to
me out
know
again,
that.
man. I need Izubee help me out again here. A running back walking out of high school, even if he's built like Adonis, like Mark Fletcher, is it easy to just walk in and start from day one as a true freshman?
I'm going to have to agree with Matt on this one. Honestly, I feel like
now you're really wrong, Ferman. Wow.
He's just trying to even it out.
No check for Izubee this month.
From what I've seen from Mark and how highly praised Coach Smith has said of him, and how like the biggest part of his game has grown this year is his mental part of learning the game. I feel like he can really come in and make an impact. And we mentioned, injuries with Javonte Citizen and Don Chaney, not knowing how well they're going to come back and if they're going to be 100%. And especially in this type of offense where you want to pound the rock, you'll have a big back in there. Parrish isn't the biggest back. We know that. But I feel like at 6'2", 200-something pounds, Fletcher can come in and be that guy. Although he's not coming in early, but I feel like that summer he can, catch up to speed. He's a really good back, and I think he can make an impact early.
Yeah, this guy's, by the way, this guy's compared to Derrick Henry, okay? Henry Parrish is compared to Mike James. I made that up. But the Derrick Henry comparison, like, that tells you all you need to know. Like, you don't not put that guy on the field and let him go. Like, that's it.
I totally agree, which is why we have him number one. I'm just not as convinced that he's walking on campus in June and starting by September, but we'll see. All right, number two on the list is Ray Joseph Izubee. Stephen Wagner has been out in San Antonio this week, where Ray Joseph was the talk of All-American Bowl practices. I mean, people raving about what they saw from Ray. You were like Ray's personal beat writer essentially this entire season, and you guys have gotten relatively close. And we've talked all year about how we think he's going to make an immediate impact at Miami. I assume you still feel that way.
Yeah, I feel like this week just backs up, everything I've ever said about Ray Ray. I've seen him do it against, top South Florida competition. And now at the All-American game, he's doing against, the best guys in the nation. And on Twitter, all you see on your feed, is Ray Ray's doing this, Ray Ray's doing that. We think Ray Ray can be a day one guy at Miami. And they're getting him on campus early, too, which is great. I think right after the All-American Bowl, he moves into his dorm in Miami. So I feel like that ball is just going to keep rolling and rolling. And Ray Ray's going to be a really impactful guy his first year at Coral Gables.
All right, number 3 and 4 in the story is kind of obvious. The 2 freshman offensive tackles, Francis Magoa, Samson Okinola. Time will tell whether they can get themselves ready by September, but I think Miami's going to try to fast track them as well. And then the 5th one might surprise you, and that's the punter, the new Aussie that Miami has found in Dylan Joyce. But if you think about it, with no Lou Hedley back, guys, Miami needs a punter. So he's going to be an impactful guy. No doubt about it.
Who's supposed to answer that?
Take it, man.
Oh. Well, first of all, Dylan Joyce probably will be really bad because he looks like Stephen Wagner with a couple of inches. So I don't think Stephen Wagner is going to be a great punter. Maybe Dylan Joyce will be, maybe he won't. Like, nobody's seen this guy. I was telling somebody the other day, I'm like, I think that Mario Cristobal got catfished. Nobody's ever seen this guy. Nobody even heard of this guy. Some guy named Dylan Joyce shows up on their piece of paper on signing day, and they say, hey, there's some guy in Australia nobody's ever seen who's going to be our punter. And, we spend the next week trying to track down somebody who knows him, and then there's some weird dude with Pro Kick Australia, but the pros capitalized, the kick's not, and it's all one word smushed together. I think that's a made-up dude, too. It probably was Dylan Joyce talking about himself with a different kind of voice, like, Dylan Joyce is a great athlete, like one of those things. And then we use those quotes for one story, and then you call, and then Dylan Joyce says, hey, yeah, I'm really happy to be a Hurricane. It's going to be great, This guy doesn't exist. There's going to be no punter on campus in the spring or fall, okay? I'm sorry, Mario, you got catfished by some dude who looks like Stephen Wagner. And I think it was Stephen Wagner who catfished you, bro. That's the truth. I've never seen this guy. I have no idea if he's any good. Nobody's seen any footage of him. He doesn't even have a Twitter account.
The Matt Shodell fan
by the way, that's the only reason
area right now.
That's the only reason I think he's actually a real person is because if he was going to catfish somebody who'd make a fake Twitter account, the fact that he's not even on social media anywhere that I could find, he's probably real. Probably real. Not definitely.
All right. One other thing on a more serious note that is on the website this morning that I encourage everybody to read. The funeral's today at noon for Paul Damari. And maybe you know who he is, maybe you don't. But for most of my few decades around the University of Miami athletic program, Paul Damari for many years kept the place afloat. Seriously, he kept the lights on. When Miami didn't have boosters, he was a booster. When they wanted to bring back basketball, he was the first guy to write the $50,000 check. You could go on and on and on with the ways that Paul Damari has touched the University of Miami, not just the athletic program, but the university as well. He gave a lot of money to the medical school and medical buildings and things like that. Just a guy that really, really cared about the University of Miami. And like I said, just kept the lights on for many years when people were thinking the athletic department might go out of business. So read Jim Martz's tribute to Paul Damari today and join all of us in remembering what a great man that he was. All right, well, that's going to do it for today for Good Morning CaneSport. We thank you so much for starting your day out with us. If you like the show, hit your subscribe button, hit your like button. It helps us with the algorithms at YouTube, grow our audience. If you're not yet a subscriber to CaneSport.com so that you can read the great work of Matt and Izubee and Steven, please come join our family at CaneSport. We still have an introductory special that will take you up to the start of next football season. Yes, it has gone from $1 to $25, but that's the way these things work. We don't, otherwise we wouldn't be able to keep the lights on here at CaneSport. And your subscriptions allow us to do what we do every day. So for Izubee Charles, who got almost everything right today, and Matt Shodell, who got almost everything wrong, I'm Gary Ferman. We wish you a great day, a great weekend. Stay on the website all weekend. We'll have coverage of these transfers that are visiting, and then we'll be back to talk about it on Monday morning on this show. Have a great weekend, everybody.